tomato, Martha.
I didn't know they grow them so big, Jeff.
I wonder where he's going. He got little Timmy.
Poor Timmy.
Ate him all up.
Attack of the killer tomatoes.
This makes God help the cherry tomato.
Giant tomatoes mean bigger pizzas.
Turn on the record player! Cover your ears, everyone!
Attack of the killer tomatoes.
Good evening. Welcome to this week's edition of the WayBack Movies Podcast, show where we review the best and not so best of 80s and 90s cinema, because really, fuck the 2000s. My name is Steve, and with me on this crazy journey,
Justin.
Doctor. And we're back. We knew it was going to happen someday. We just knew it was going to happen someday. So, we're talking about a movie, if you can call it that.
I'm not going to. Well, no, I am. In my prepared statement, I did refer to it as a movie.
But yeah, we're covering a film today that it is a very popular film, and we'll get into why in a little bit. But it is a movie that a bit of a spoiler. It was a bit of a chore for us. Neither one of us had seen it. I thought I had, but it turns out I must have watched one of the sequels as a kid, because I'd never seen this before.
Not that one was much better, I'm sure.
I'm betting not. I have no real recollection of it. But
you blocked it out, that's good.
I guess so. But yeah, this was definitely a movie that we watched. I don't know. We really don't know what to say. We'll just get into it. We won't waste too much of your time on this film. So we're going way back to October 20th, 1978 for Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Okay, so we're here in 1978. Neither one of us are born. So there you go.
As with every 70s movie we will ever cover.
Yes, I was born. We were both born in the 80s, so this wasn't a thing. But yes, so like I said, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, October 20th, 1978. Directed by John DeBello, written by John DeBello, Costa Dillon, and Steve Peace. Story by Costa Dillon, produced by John DeBello and Steve Peace. Distributed by NAI Entertainment. Box office of $567,000 against a budget of $100,000. The cast is David Miller is Mason Dixon, George Wilson is Jim Richardson, Sharon Taylor is Lois Fairchild, Rock Peace is Wilbert Finletter, who's actually just Steve Peace. He just wanted to go by Rock for whatever fucking reason. Ernie Myers is the president, Eric Christmas is Senator Polk, Ron Shapiro is a newspaper editor. Al Sklar is Ted Swan. Jerry Anderson is Major Mills. Jack Riley is Von Schauer. Gary Smith is Sam Smith, because we needed to change that name. John Quills is the captain. Jeff Ramsey is the stapler. Jack Nolan is Senator McKinley. And Paul Oya is Dr. Nokitofa. Oh, and there's more. Oops. Byron Teagarden is Dr. Morrison. And Ryan Shields is the tomato.
I guess he did all the whatever.
Yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah. Okay, so the production of this film. The film was made by three college friends who just graduated and were running a company called Foursquare Production making sports films, and they decided to make a movie.
And it shows.
Mm-hmm. Costa Dillon came up with the idea saying, I saw Attack of the Mushroom People, and I remember thinking, how dumb is this? And suddenly got the idea that we could do something even sillier. I don't know why tomatoes came to mind first. Maybe because they seemed so innocuous. The title alone convinced the other two to go along with the idea. Before moving on to feature-length 35mm Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, the trio worked on a number of short 8 and 16mm films, along with their high school friend and Killer Tomatoes' leading man, David Miller. Dillon says, I came up with the idea when I was still in high school, and 2 years later, we were all taking film classes at UC Davis, and we made a little Super 8 Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, maybe 15 minutes long, and we got an A on it. The Wilbur Finletter character with the parachute dragging behind came out of the original college short. Various relatives of the filmmakers were financial backers for the movie, and several family members of the filmmakers appear throughout the picture in small parts.
Oh!
It shows.
I'm sure they fucking do.
Most of the cast never appeared in a movie before and never have acted since.
No shit.
Yeah. This is interesting, though. The helicopter crash in the early scenes was unintentional.
It looked it.
It
I'm not going to lie. It
Yeah.
looked it. It looked like that was not a planned stunt.
It was not. The tail rotor blades accidentally hit the ground, causing the helicopter to spin out of control. Debris of the top rotor blades narrowly missed the police officers.
You can see the actors. They're not acting. They're running for their lives.
In the beginning scene, the crew off camera. The pilot received minor injuries after being pulled from the wreck. Jack Riley and George Wilson quickly ad-libbed the rest of the scene. As the wreck was set on fire, the crash of the $60,000 rented helicopter used up more of the budget than all other aspects of the film combined.
So the budget would have been far less if they didn't wreck the
Basically, yeah. If they hadn't wrecked
vehicle.
it would have cost them probably about 50
guerrilla
50 grand,
filmmaking.
it looks like. Yeah,
that can happen.
Oh, there's more of that. Being that they weren't working on a real film studio, they didn't get permits to film.
Okay.
They just bought official-looking road blocking equipment, parking codes, etc., and put them up. No one seemed to question them.
That's, the
Why
70s.
Not? Yeah. There were two types of tomatoes used. Blemished and rotting were used for throwing and smashing, and clean and ripe ones were used for close-ups. Even though they originally...
Show tomatoes.
Yes. Hero tomatoes, actually.
Yeah.
Even though they originally wouldn't squish right, so they had to be boiled slightly to soften them. For the giant tomato, they tried a PVC framework and paper mache that they thought looked ridiculous. Just a balloon, which looked worse, and then they finally settled on foam insulation from transit seats. So, there you go. Steve Peace did all of his own stunts. Moreover, Peace had a wooden board on wheels placed under his stomach for the scene in which he's dragged down the street by the car. In the practice take, he got loose and went out of control and rolled into a parked car, hitting his head. Costa turned to John and said, "I think he's dead." John just said, "Why didn't we get this on film?" When Steve eventually woke up, he asked, "Please tell me we were rolling on that one." FYI, J. Stephen Pierce is a former California state senator from 1993 to 2002. Yeah.
He wouldn't have been elected if the voters saw this movie.
Oh, I'm sure they did. This movie is surprisingly popular. In the days of distributing the 70s, productions sold prints of their movies to theaters sight unseen. One had a big movie that he'd never seen or heard anything about, and this movie, which he'd seen the trailer. He bought this movie instead of the big-budget, crazy film he was thinking of. The movie he passed on was a film no one's ever seen. It was called Star Wars.
Well, you get what you deserve.
Yep.
You get what you fucking deserve.
The song that's used frequently in the movie, Puberty Love, was sung by then-teenaged Matt Cameron, who later became the drummer for Soundgarden, and since 1998 has been the drummer for Pearl Jam. He also drummed for the Smashing Pumpkins in 1998.
Did he?
Mm-hmm. When they fired Jimmy Chamberlain. Yeah, so that guy is the one singing Puberty Love, is that drummer.
Puberty Love.
Yeah. So the legacy of this film, and yes, it actually does have one.
I'm sure it does.
Quite a large one, actually.
Sure it does, yeah.
Upon release, Variety wrote that the film isn't even worthy of sarcasm. Slant Magazine in 2003 wrote, "The really frustrating thing about Tomatoes is the toothlessness of its satire, and that's a major missed opportunity considering the irony of using a stereotypically foreign genre, Japanese monster movies, against a parody of America's giantistic reliance on military power. The army is useless against the giant tomatoes. Should have been a comedic goldmine. The only reason I included that was because that is probably the most intelligent anyone has ever spoken about this movie."
Yeah,
that's
true.
I had to throw that in there. However, Rue Morgue later wrote in a review of the Blu-ray disc edition in 2018 that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes may be one of history's most misunderstood films. It has often been celebrated as a prime example of so bad it's funny cinema, when in fact it's an attempt at intentional comedy that is at best scattershot success. I will get there later.
I'm just building up the rage.
Part of the reason this film was successful, I would say, is the film was one of the first 100 titles released on VHS, which the filmmakers claim is the reason for the film's success, saying, if you had a brand new video deck and there were only 20 films to rent in a little store, you're going to watch all of them. And that's probably very true.
Plus, you're renting a movie. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It jumps at you.
Yeah,
right? That sounds ridiculous.
It's a fantastic title. It really is. It's Snakes on a Plane. It's all of those. Like, it's a great title. media. The film has become a cult film. A number of sequels and other spin-off material have been done in various media as a result of this movie. They include 3 movie sequels: Return of the Killer Tomatoes, Killer Tomatoes Strike Back, and Killer Tomatoes Eat France. The film was adapted in 1990 as Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, a cartoon series which ran on Fox Kids. But despite the name, it is based on Return of the Killer Tomatoes. A novel released in 1997, Attack of the Killer Potatoes, pays tribute to the film. Different video games were developed. In 1986, a video game released for 8-bit computers, which was based on the film, and a 1991 video game released for the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Nintendo Game Boy, which was based on the animated series. No, I don't own them. I knew you were getting there at some point.
Yeah.
Viper Comics released a comic book adaptation of the film in October of 2008. Kim Harrison's book series, The Hollows, is based in a world where genetically engineered tomatoes kill off a significant portion of the human population. The author admitted inspiration came from this movie.
Inspiration? You mean you just took the idea and made a book out of it?
Pretty much, yes.
You even said tomatoes.
Yeah.
You could have.
Although maybe that's not the whole plot of the book. It's
Fair
just
enough.
part of it, perhaps.
Okay, I'm just saying, you could have just picked another fruit or vegetable.
Yeah. A Greek film has also been made as an homage.
Sure it has.
I will not even attempt to pronounce this title, but in English it loosely translates to Attack of the Giant Moussaka. It was released in 1999.
Did you call me?
Yes, of course this was going to happen because it's modern-day Hollywood. In 2008, a remake was announced. Kent Nichols and Douglas Serene, creators of Asked Ninja, were developing the project. This was to be Nichols' directorial debut. M. Dow Walton III was co-producing along with Emmett Furla Films. In 2011, John DeBello said that the Asked Ninja creators were no longer involved. In July of 2018, Steve Peace and Costa Dillon announced a reboot at the San Diego Comic-Con. Filming began in July of 2019, directed by Dustin Ferguson. I could not find any information beyond that.
Well, we'll see if it comes out.
Mm-hmm. My guess is probably not.
So we do get to Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, unfortunately. Yes, that unfortunately is not part of the title. I just added that. Opening text. There's a rule in movies. Mm-hmm. And the rule is never show a movie within your movie that's better than your movie. That should also go for text, because this movie references Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, and then just kind of...
I mean, I can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, take this movie somewhat seriously because people laughed at The Birds and then this shit happened. So, watch this movie because it might happen. That's the joke that they're going for.
I get it, yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So the song happens,
Yeah.
and it's probably one of the only good things about this movie that I could say.
This song is fantastic.
The song is funny.
Yes.
And it gave me hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then a random woman was just killed by a tomato off screen.
Yeah.
The
tomatoes never actually kill anyone on screen.
No.
And I'm not sure how they kill people. Because it's saying that they're eating people, but we never actually see anyone eaten.
A man literally just dies.
He drinks some tomato juice and dies.
But you hear it in his mind?
Yeah.
That he's... Okay. Then we get 2 old people. See, I'm assuming all of these people in this opening scenes are all family members.
I hope so. And
none
again,
of these people are actors.
Yeah, and this scene, again, the one we're about to talk about, is the one that made me laugh. And why it's in the intro, is where basically it's just an old couple, and the wife just sort of goes, the husband just goes, oh, look, there's a giant tomato just rolled in. Where's he going? Oh, he just ate up Timmy. Okay,
He just ate little Timmy.
Just ate him. Where's he going now? I don't know. Ate them all up. And I like how later on they pay this off, which is probably, again, the only funny thing.
For sale?
Yeah, they literally oh, so your grandson was killed. Yeah. By the way, do you know anyone who wants to buy a crib? Slightly used. I was like, this is fucking genius.
So if this movie was that, all the way through.
Yeah, we would have loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, that copter gets crashed up, and it wasn't part of the deal, I guess. A bunch of characters who we don't even get any of these people's names.
No, we don't.
They're just nameless, faceless officers.
Yeah. Which, by the way, they bought
who get several scenes.
Yeah.
We get several scenes with these 2 guys.
They bought all the uniforms at Goodwill, by the way, which makes me laugh.
I'm sure they did. They're looking for Mason Dixon. He was in the war.
Like you do.
Why he is... does he have expertise in vegetables or fruits or tomatoes?
They keep calling them vegetables the whole fucking movie.
Yeah. Well, they do make the point of the one thing